at 9 o'clock at WWRR Scranton Wilkes-Barre. This is a Decades Artist Spotlight.
Hey, Michael Monroe here.
Hear the voices, liberation, free the people's fascination. The road is dark, but we will carry on. We will carry on.
Hey, you guys, wonder why?
It's raining men. Hallelujah, it's raining men. Amen.
Hi, this is Billy Vera.
What did you think I would do at this moment?
This is the Decades Artist Spotlight. Now, here's Joe E. Kramer with this week's artist.
All right, we're on a Decades Artist Spotlight, and this week we are with Mr. Chesney Hawks. He is the creator of one of the best soundtrack songs from the 90s, the one and only. It is called. It was a big hit here in the States, and it was in Doc Hollywood, which, starred Michael J. Fox. So we're going to talk to Chesney in a little bit. He had other songs, too. He had a couple top 50 hits and a bunch of hits in the UK. So maybe you'll be introduced to more of his music, if nothing else. Chesney Hawks, Decades Artist Spotlight. I'm a man, not a boy. Get ready. Chesney's next. Chesney Hawks. I'm a man, not a boy.
This is the Decades Artist Spotlight with Joe E. Kramer. This week's artist.
It is another Decades Artist Spotlight, and tonight we are here with singer-songwriter, even does a little acting, the one and only, I shouldn't even have said that, Mr. Chesney. It just came out.
It's okay. I think I could count on my hand the amount of times that I haven't been introduced as the one and only Chesney.
Well, you know what?
So
I even put a note for myself in my little interview notes. Do not say one and only.
Did you not read it right in front of you?
I was looking at it, and I don't know. I just saw the note there now as it was coming out of my mouth. So sorry for the cheese, because it wasn't supposed to come out.
It's all good. It's all good. Believe me, as I said, it's a very common occurrence.
I can only imagine. Well, I mean, it's been a long time since that song has come out. Before I even talk about any of that, I want to talk a little bit about the beginning, because you had a music. I mean, you were 19 years old when that song hit, but you had a life before that song, and you grew up in a somewhat musical family. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, my father was very much part of the kind of Brit invasion, and he was in a band called the Kramer'S. I mean, they had 15 top 10 hits, in Europe, and I think maybe 5 or 6 here in the States. They had the biggest song was "Silence Is Golden," which you sometimes hear just walking around. I know I do. Every time I hear it, I give my dad a little text. Just heard silence, So yeah, I grew up with guitars propped in every corner, and my dad was very much kind of in that crowd, and Jerry Marsden is good friends of his, and the Searchers and the Marmalade and Dave D and the Kinks were all even the Beatles, they were all friends of my dad's, and they were all kind of like my uncles, as it were,
Right. Well, that's got to be cool. It's got to be cool. I talk to a lot of people and they say my parents were totally against me doing anything musical.
Oh yeah, my dad was the total opposite of that. There was no way there's 3 of us in the family, my brother and sister, and there's no way we were ever going to be, accountants or 9-to-5ers. It was kind of guaranteed we were going to be doing something artistic. My mum was an actress as well, and, so we really did kind of grow up with it in our blood,
But he gave you kind of a choice, didn't he? I heard you say that you gave him a song. Was it a song list or a cassette of different music that he gave you the choice? You have this chance. If it doesn't work, then, you're going to do something else.
Oh, yeah, well, I guess what he did, I mean, listen, he always knew I was going to be a singer, because ever since the age of, being a child, really, I was a singer. In fact, I even made a record when I was 9 years old. But I think you're pointing to when I left school, he said to me, if you're not earning money, by the end of the summer as a musician, then you're going to go back to school. And, so I went off and found myself little jobs playing piano in the local pubs and the wine bars, and, doing weddings and everything. That's kind of my thing. And I actually ended up, doing pretty well. And that's really where I, learned my craft, as it were, as a player and a songwriter.
Of course.
Sitting in the corner.
Of course, everybody, I mean, when you think of Chesney Hawks, especially in the States, I mean, Doc Hollywood was the big thing for the one and only. I mean, you watched that movie. It's the very first song played in the movie. But how did it all come about, the success of that song? Because it was in that movie, and it was also a movie that was released in Britain, which I don't think was ever... It was released here in the States a little bit longer, but had a lot of success in Great Britain. But how did that all come about?
Oh, well, yes. I auditioned for a part in a film, a starring role in a film with Roger Daltrey. And I was only 17 when I auditioned for that.
And it was Buddy's song, right?
Yeah, it was called Buddy's Song, yeah. And I ended up getting the part. And that was my first kind of break into the business. And so we made that film. And, the soundtrack from that film was my first album. And
right.
The song, The One and Only, was actually included in that film. So that's where it all came from. And I don't know if it was ever released here in the States, actually, but it should have been. It's quite a fun film. It's very quintessentially English, but I think it would definitely translate over here in a kind of a cute way, if you know what I mean.
It's on YouTube, incidentally. You could see it on YouTube.
You can see it on YouTube. It's in about 10 different parts.
It is. I looked it up, and it's chopped up into 10 different parts, but Buddy's song is there on YouTube.
It's there, so if you're interested,
And how did it get on? How did it get on? You know, it found a lot of success here, obviously, on with Doc Hollywood. How did that come all about?
Yeah, well, that one was amazing. I remember being on tour in England, playing my first headline tour in England, because it was already, you know, the record was already number one in England and started to do really well around Europe, and started to slowly climb the charts in the States. And I got a telegram. This is how old it was. An actual telegram, you know, with a stop at the front of it and everything. that said Michael J. Fox's film Doc Hollywood, which hadn't obviously come out, wants to use The One and Only as the kind of the opening titles, and so I was very excited about that. But it kind of came out of nowhere. I think the producer or the director was like you know, in England at the time or something, and heard the record and really liked it and said, "That's nice. That's the song I want for the the opening titles." So yeah, we were very lucky. I think that's what put it over the edge here in the States, to be honest.
And I don't think people realize you were only 19 years old when that album came, when that song hit. So I mean, you were a 19-year-old, and all of a sudden you were everywhere, including, you know, not only in your hometown, in your homeland, but in the United States. You were everywhere, either performing that song, or the song was on the radio, or it was in the movie. How did you handle it at 19? Because it came out of nowhere. I mean, all of a sudden you're just thrust into the limelight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, for me, I mean, yes, I was young, but of course I came from that very much musical background, and also that kind of fame background, because my dad had a bit of fame, and you know, and all of his friends were kind of like in the business and had a bit of fame. So it, I know it sounds weird, but it didn't seem like a kind of a weird situation. It seemed like a natural thing, you know, but it was like being in the eye of a storm. And I look back at that kind of 2 or 3 years there where, you know, everything was just crazy around me. I'd do like 6 or 7 countries in one day sometimes, you know, and it all happened so fast. And suddenly there was, you know, photographers outside the house, and, you know, girls camping outside the house and stuff, and we had to put up fence. And I mean, it was a really, really crazy kind of meteoric rise. So, you know, I think my dad kind of traveled around with me at the time as kind of like a co-manager situation. So I think he kind of, you know, in some ways kept my head from being in the clouds. I'm sure I was a cocky git at the time, but in fact, I know I was. If I look back at the old interviews, I can't even look at them now. I look like some kind of cartoon character, you know. But you know, my family were very, very close, and my brother was the drummer in my band, and he still is actually. So, you know, he kept my feet down on the ground, I guess, as well. And if I got out of control, he'd pull me back down and say, "Look, you know, you're still my brother."
And you know that song was written by one of my favorite artists, Nick Kershaw, who I don't think people, because you're known for your songwriting as well, and you write all your music. But that particular song was a Nick Kershaw song, who, you know, it didn't get a lot of success in the States, but was one of my favorites from the time I heard "Wouldn't It Be Good" in the early 1980s.
Yeah, well, Nick was a huge pop star in England when I was younger. Through my teen years, from the age of 14 to 17, he was like probably my favorite artist. Nick Kershaw and Prince were my two 80s artists. You know, so I got the reason that I recorded The One and Only. To be honest, for me, the one reason that I wanted to do The One and Only is because it was an opportunity for me to meet Nick Kershaw. I swear to God.
Hey, that's as good as any.
You know, I'm like, oh, really? I want to meet Nick. I want to meet Nick Kershaw. You know, so we ended up recording that song basically on that whim. And, I got to meet him, and we recorded it at Abbey Road. And Nick, 25 years on from then to now, him and I are really, really close and, really good friends. And I've written songs for him on his albums since, and we've carried on writing together, and he's had songs on my albums. So, it was a really kind of a fruitful relationship.
Because you'll find out that we come in different shapes and sizes. No one can be myself like I can. For this job I'm the best man. Well, this may be true. You are the one and only you.
Color Reach Radio, this is Decades. It is the Decades Artist Spotlight. The Decades Artist Spotlight, and Chesney Hawks is with us tonight. The one and only, that was a top 10 hit right here in the States. #1 song worldwide. It really catapulted him into to fame. Doc Hollywood with Michael J. Fox was the movie. All right, we're going to continue our conversation with Chesney Hawks, talk about fame and, you know, the strange things that happened to him throughout his fame in the early 1990s. All that and more coming up. This is the Decades Artist Spotlight. Chesney Hawks with us tonight on 105 The River, 104.9 and 100.7 FM, 1340 AM around the world at 105theriver.net, Decades with JoeECramer.com, and a Radio Bold app. Hang on.
This is the Decades Artist Spotlight.
Northeast PA's 105 The River. I don't know why I fell into your trap. I should have known that. I should have seen you coming. I never thought you'd be breaking my heart with such a good start. We hit the ground running. I believed everything you said, and every day I wanted you so bad. You took me for everything I had. It's another fine mess you got me into. It's another bad taste you left behind. It's another
week's Decades Artist Spotlight continues. Now, here's Joe E. Kramer with this week's artist.
We are on a Decades Artist Spotlight. Chesney Hawks is with us. That last song, Another Fine Mess, that was actually 2005. A really good album. Another Fine Mess had 2 hits on it. Stay Away, Baby Jane, and Another Fine Mess. And later on, we're going to be playing a song off an album he released about a year or two ago. And it hits home, especially if you're a parent. And we'll talk about it with Chesney Hawks coming up right now. And you have the same story that so many artists that I talk to in the States, the quote hair metal bands have this story all the time that, you're on top of the world, and then all of a sudden the record company won't even return your phone calls.
Yeah, that was tough because, I was only like 22, 23 when that happened. And it was like being this is how I liken it as metaphorically. It was like being in the greatest club in the world where, everything's champagne's flowing, there's bars everywhere, and it's all great, and the music's banging and everything. And then for whatever reason, you get kicked out by the bouncers and you land on your ass in the gutter.
And nobody will tell you why.
And you don't even know why. Exactly. So, yeah, it was a very humbling moment for me because when you're that young and you have that kind of success and that kind of experience, you just think, oh, this is what happens when you put records out.
Right.
Fabulous. Let's do it again. Let's do another one. You kind of have this kind of slightly warped sense of privilege and what the real world is. When you have success at a young age. But I soon found out, that obviously that's not the way life works, unless you're very, very lucky.
And you make a lot of money, you spend a lot of money, and if you had a chance, I got to ask this, the 44-year-old Chesney Hawks today, what would your be advice if you could go back and talk to the 19-year-old Chesney Hawks? What could you say to him?
Well, first of all, I'm not great with regrets. I really don't believe in regretting things in life.
I'm not talking regrets, advice you might give them.
Yeah, advice. All right. I think I would say don't take yourself too seriously, because I was very caught up in that whole kind of, being a pop star when I really should have been at that particular moment, maybe concentrating a little more on music and thinking about what I wanted to do with my life as far as like not just kind of putting out pop music, just kind of like thinking about what I had in my head as far as challenging things in life and humanity and giving back and that kind of thing. I think, it would be to kind of be aware of the world around you. That's pretty much the biggest thing. But I think that's pretty much what anyone would go back and say to a young person. You know what I mean? Because at that point when you're young, the world revolves around you, doesn't it?
And we all think about if I only knew back then what I know now.
Yes, exactly. You don't realize that there's this whole world going on around you, and there are other people around. I just feel like I was probably a little too caught up.
And you picked yourself up. You married your wife Christina, who I read a funny thing that she didn't even know that was your song.
No, she had no idea. Well, when we met, even on that night that we met, she asked me what I do, and I said, "Oh, I'm a musician, but I don't really like to talk about it." And I said, "What do you do?" She said, "Oh, I'm a model. I don't really like to talk about it either." So we were both in that place, and then we started to date, and after a week or so, I remember we were kind of holding hands and walking around this kind of English fete, they had that in local towns and stuff, and this girl kind of came running up and flung her arms around me, screaming, "Oh my God!" Did that whole thing that bands do sometimes. And then she kind of went trotting off, and my wife's like, "And who was that?" I said, "Right, I think I should probably tell you the full truth now." And then I told her about it, and she said, "Well, sing the song." So I sung a little bit of the song to her, and she's like, "Oh my God, I remember listening to that in college in Wilmington, North Carolina." I was like, "Oh, well, there you go." Funny, huh?
You didn't. One thing about you is you didn't give up. You had the one hit. A lot of one-hit artists, and I don't like using the term one-hit wonder because a lot of, your music. I like a lot of your music. I'm not a man. I'm a man, not a boy. I've played on my show, which I can't imagine why that wasn't, a hit at like one and only. But the public is fickle. In the United States, we have an attention span here in the States about 10 minutes, and then we lose interest. But I know you did a lot of writing throughout the 90s and into the 2000s. But I was listening to some of your more current music, and there's some songs that I mean, are just they're out of this world. I think Real Life Love was the album I was looking at. There's a song that I heard called Aeroplane, which it is just. I mean, the album is different than what I would expect from Chesney Hawkes because it's very more, it's more acoustic, more mellow, whatever. But Aeroplane, her Comeback, the one and only, of course, is on there, the piano acoustic version. But I mean, Aeroplane really hit it for me, though.
Well, thank you for saying that. That's close to my heart. That song. It was. I can tell you a little story about that song. Where it was about 7 or 8 years ago, something like that. And I was playing Paper Airplanes with my son, who was then probably 6 or 7. And he said to me, "Daddy, please make me an airplane. I want another one just the same." And it kind of struck me because it rhymed. It was kind of a funny thing. I wrote it in my diary at the time. And 7 years later, I kind of rediscovered it and looked at that line. I was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing!" He doesn't ask me for Paper Airplanes anymore.
Right.
He's now this kind of 15-year-old hairy bloke that lives in my house. And so it kind of made me realize those snapshots in time that if you kind of don't open your eyes and live in the moment, you miss them, especially with children because they just grow, and we all remember our babies when they're first born. And you blink, and suddenly you've got this man living in your house, bringing back girlfriends and stuff. And it's that. And any parent, I think, anyone that has kids will kind of appreciate that and understand where I was coming from there.
I know I've my oldest daughter's 18, and she just started college. And this past year, my wife cried nonstop from the whole senior year. She cried continuously, but it hits you because you're like, where did it go? I mean, it does seem like yesterday. Yeah, that's it exactly. I mean, you're ahead of me, but I mean, my eldest Casey, he just started high school, and he's going on the metro, to downtown LA all on his own, and it's almost like, I can't remember who it was that said it, maybe George Bernard Shaw, who said having children is like cutting your heart out and letting your heart walk around on its own. Right, it is. It is. Now, I also noticed another song you have. I listened to the song. I thought it was kind of funny. I don't know if it's supposed to be funny or not, but I think it's called the Realistic Anthem. Oh gosh, yeah. It's with Peter Shilton. Is that the soccer player? Yeah, no, he's the most. He's the player from the England camp that has played for England more times than anyone else. They call it capped players in England. So he's the most capped England player of all time. We got him to be involved in this, and it was for the World Cup this year. The European Championship this year. And it was just a bit of a fun kind of football anthem, and we called it the Realistic Anthem because we were like, we hope we win, but we probably won't. It is. It's a real. It's like you said. It's kind of funny. It's funny, the song, and I was listening to it. I'm thinking it's really cool. And soccer, of course, isn't as big here in the United States, so I had to look up who he was and everything. Yeah. Oh God, no. He was fantastic. Obviously he'd never performed anything like that before in his life, but he'd been involved in World Cups and European Championships, and he's a legend, literally a legend. You mentioned Peter Shilton to any Englishman, of my age or older, in fact, and you want to kind of get on your knees and bow. He's one of those. He's like, he should be a saint. Unbelievable. Hey, one of the I know you're busy, and I'm going to wrap things up here in a bit. But what's the I asked this a lot to different people. What is the weirdest thing or the funniest thing a fan has ever asked you, whether it be now or before? Like, you see fans nowadays, I heard you once say that somebody thought you were dead, which has got to be. Oh yeah, no, I've had that. Actually, that's not something that's happened just once. Oh, it's happened multiple times, even better. Yeah, that has. Yeah, and and the one that I've had a couple of times that just cracks me up is, so I was going walking through Camden Town last year sometime. Somebody stopped me and said, "Didn't you used to be Chesney Hawkes?" Funny you should mention that, because I still am. They could have thought Chesney Hawkes was a band, and you were just. I guess so, or perhaps they thought that was kind of a stage name, and that I've given up that name and I've gone back to John Smith, or I don't know, but I have had I thought you were dead. Yeah. Unbelievable. So what's rumors of my demise are greatly exaggerated. You look like on Facebook, there's somebody dying every day. You look on there, and last week Sylvester Stallone died, I mean,
Yeah, I know. It's so true, isn't it? I know. It's horrible, that.
When Prince passed away a few months ago, I immediately said, it's not true. Don't get all worried. It's not true. And it ended up being true. You don't know what to believe.
I'm still heartbroken about that.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about getting older. And I know, 40s, we're not that old. But it's just, as Michael Jackson, then, David Bowie, and now Prince, and Whitney Houston, all these artists that I listened to when I was younger, they're just going one by one by one. Yeah,
it's kind of scary, really. I mean, but you're right. It kind of makes you aware of your own mortality, even though we are still young, But these artists, Prince was only 52. It's a scary thing when your idols start going.
It is.
It really is.
Absolutely. So what's going on now? Are you going to be? Obviously you still do the music. I know you do a lot of live stuff because I see that on YouTube. I actually saw a concert you were doing. A festival was on Palladia. I think it's called MTV Live now, but it was on Palladia. Right. But you're still doing the shows, obviously.
Yeah, in fact, I'm leaving on Thursday to go back to Europe. I've got a couple of festivals and some gigs, and I do a lot of acoustic gigs these days. So just me. The last one was me and a piano and a string quartet, funny enough. And as you said, this latest album, Real Life Love, is quite a mellow, and a lot of it is piano-driven. And piano is my first instrument. So, that was a really fun thing. And it's, smaller crowds, kind of, 200 to 400 people, which I really enjoy the kind of intimacy of that. But apart from the touring, which I'm doing a lot of, I have a studio here in LA, and I write and produce mainly young artists and kind of mentor young artists,
right.
develop new artists, and I write for film and TV, incidental music for film and TV, and a little bit of scoring, and I do a bit of everything. I'm writing a musical. I keep myself very, very busy, and it's all music, and I'm very, very grateful to still, be just say that music is my what I do for a living.
Absolutely. We're on a Decades Artist Spotlight tonight. We're with, and I'm not going to say the one and only. We're with Mr. Chesney Hawks. Chesney, it's been fantastic talking with you tonight. I do appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been really nice. Thank you. Hi, this is Chesney Hawks here, and you're listening to Decades with Joey Kramer.
Daddy, please make me an aeroplane. I want another one just the same. I want you to fly with the sun in my eyes. I'll walk you home in the rain from the fair. Are you cold? I'll give you my coat to wear. I'll treasure this moment I almost missed. These moments make up a life, and you wanna take it all in, just fall in. So many snapshots in time. If anyone can make me stand still, you will. You will. Remember when you pushed me into the sea, laughing so hard we could barely breathe, like long lost friends. You know you will see again. These moments make up a life, and you wanna take it all in, just fall in. So many snapshots in time. If anyone can make me stand still, you will. You will. There's no time to kill. How do we stop the wheels turning for a moment? Let's get off the train, let the airplane go. snapshots in time. If anyone can make me stand still, you will. You will.
The Decades Artist Spotlight. The song's called Aeroplane. Chesney Hawks.
Daddy, please make me an aeroplane.
This week's Decades Artist Spotlight continues. Now, here's Joe E. Kramer with this week's artist.
Chesney Hawks on the Decades Artist Spotlight, Aeroplane. It is just a fantastic song. It was released in 2014. Go to chesneyhawks.com. That's where you will be able to hear all the great music he is still making, and he is also embarking on a U.S. tour. And like he said, he does them acoustic. He has a fantastic voice. And it's ironic, one song, it spans a career. And he's still out there doing what he loves, which is fantastic. Our next Decades Artist Spotlight will be coming up on February 4th. Mr. Tim Ripper Owens, who used to be the lead singer of Judas Priest. And he was on Bar Rescue also. If you ever watched that, I think it's on Spike, if I'm not mistaken. And we're going to talk to Tim Ripper Owens coming up in 2 weeks. You do not miss it. More Decades coming up right here around the world at 105theriver.net, Decades with JoeEKramer.com, and, of course, 105 The River.